Hello to everybody. This is attorney Sara Bazzigaluppi with the Chapman Law Group. I'm an attorney for the Licensing and Regulatory Division of this law firm in Florida. So most of the cases that I handle are relating to disciplinary proceedings involving the Department of Health, and especially cases involving impairment or diversion issues where impaired practitioner programs come into play. There were a few things that I wanted to talk to all of you about because I've been receiving a lot of calls about this particular issue. So in particular, what does it mean to be under investigation with the Department of Health if you're under quarantine? How does COVID-19 affect that process? We've talked about impaired practitioner programs before. We call them IPN and PRN for short. Those are the two practitioner programs in Florida. If you're interested in knowing more about how those work, we actually have already filmed a video conference between me and Ron Chapman Sr., who is the owner of the Chapman Law Group, where we discuss that in a little bit more depth. What I wanted to talk to you about today from the comfort of my home during this pandemic, unprecedented times, I hope you all are safe, but some of you are probably having a hard time, I guess, handling your cases, trying to work with IPN and PRN, and all their requirements and what that means to work with IPN and PRN during the pandemic. So if you're a nurse and dealing with IPN, the Intervention Project for Nurses, or if you're a physician or other healthcare professional dealing with the Professional Resource Network, PRN, the requirements are still going to be the same. Normally, in order for you to enroll in these programs preemptively, you still need to sign refrain from practice forms, okay? Meaning you promise these entities that you won't be practicing your profession until you are formally assessed by an evaluator who can determine whether you are safe to practice or not, right? As we've discussed before, evaluators are there for that exclusive purpose. IPN and PRN don't have the power to make diagnostic decisions. They cannot make treatment decisions. All their recommendations, all their requirements are based on the assessment of the evaluator that they send you to. So I've been encountering some issues, especially with clients who are trying to get into IPN or PRN, because in order for them to enroll in the program and know what they need to do, what kind of monitoring contract they need to sign, for example, they need to get an evaluation. And a lot of these evaluators are not working because of the pandemic. There is debate as to what type of services can be conducted. There's also been some legislature out there lessening some of the restrictions in terms of telemedicine, but it's still not clear as to whether these evaluators can conduct evaluations in person or via telemedicine for the purpose of enrollment in IPN or PRN. So we're actually having some problems there with people not being able to get to these evaluations in time. I'm actually in contact with IPN and PRN for this exact reason. I still haven't heard back from them. I think they themselves are trying to figure out a way around it. But the bottom line is this: if you sign that refrain from practice form, which would be normal cause, you need to not work until you get evaluated. And I don't know how fair that is or how legal it is for IPN and PRN to force you to refrain from practicing until you are evaluated, especially when we don't know what that's going to be. So in this moment, I am in conversations with both entities. I hope to get an answer soon. As soon as that happens, I will have another one of these videos so we can discuss that in a little bit more detail. The bottom line is this though: if you're trying to get into the program right now, you probably need to contact an attorney just to help you through the process. So that's the first thing to consider. If you're going in now, you're probably going to have to sign that refrain from practice form, and it might be very hard for you to get into an evaluator's office anytime soon. The other issue is this. If the evaluator, for example, determines that you need treatment before you can be found safe to practice, say 60-day intensive outpatient treatment or 90 days PHP or a treatment with housing component, whatever that is, we're encountering some issues there too. These treatment facilities are leery in trying to allow people to get into the treatment facility because they're trying to protect themselves and their residents or their other participants from exposure from COVID-19. So we're also having some delays there. In essence, getting into IPN and PRN right now is actually very hard, and it might mean that you have to refrain from practice for a long time. Again, we're trying to figure that out here at Chapman Law Group. Is there a way around the refrain from practice form for the time being? Is it better to wait before you enroll? What can we do? Those are all questions that are still lingering in the air. We're trying to come down with an answer, cooperating with these entities as well, and we'll get back to you as soon as we find out. But those are all serious considerations that you should be making. Keep in mind that just because IPN and PRN have the power to require you to refrain from practice doesn't mean that they can force you to do that indefinitely without substantial evidence that you're in fact impaired and unable to practice with reasonable skill and safety. So I advise that you give us a call if this is your situation. Regardless, anytime you get a call from IPN or you are accused of impairment from an employer, you're dealing with drug diversion accusations, or Department of Health is involved at this point already, you should always call an attorney to discuss these things before you make the call to IPN and PRN. It's the truth of the matter is it might be a good place for some people to go, but you need to be well aware of what it means to enroll in these programs, because it is a long-term commitment. It's expensive financially. It will take a toll on your license and your career, and how those things affect you in the future, in the long run, are things that you should discuss with somebody who's had experience with IPN and PRN. So keep all those things in mind. We'll reach out as soon as we have some news about this process. We're all learning here. In the meantime, please stay safe, wash your hands, use a mask, and I'll talk to you soon.